And welcome to episode 37, I think, maybe 38 of the Inquisition. This week's guest we will have on Gus the Hut, Twitch streamer and content creator. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get everybody online and live that should be live. I'm going to give it 5 attempts. If after the 5th attempt it doesn't work, we'll try it with Casey. So hope you're all well today, folks. Hope you're all having a great Wednesday. Hi Sophie, how you doing? Hey Peyton Dude 3, hope you're well mate, thanks for joining everybody. We're just trying, I think Gus the Hut's away making a cup of tea, Casey's doing whatever Casey does. Where you walking abouts mate? Whereabouts are you walking today? Must be good getting out walking now with the night's been a bit stretched. Hey Sophie, hope you're well. Hey Gus, thanks for joining mate. If you send me an invite, then hopefully, we should be rocking and rolling that way. Now remember folks, if you've got any questions in the chat, don't hesitate in throwing them in, and either myself or Casey will get Gus to answer any questions. Keep it dirty, not too clean, not too dirty either, because it is before the watershed. Is that still a thing, the watershed? Remember like, when you used to watch films when you were wee, 9 o'clock was when you see and all the sweary bits. One, as I say folks, if this doesn't work after the 4th or 5th attempt, we'll try and get Casey to do the hosting. Usually it can take 2 or 3 attempts before we can get everybody on that's supposed to be on. But yeah, it's a wee bit different today. Another Twitch streamer. We've not had a Twitch streamer on in a good long while. So looking forward to having Gus on, if we can eventually get him on. So yeah, hoping to have him on soon. Hey Colin, thanks for joining me. Another regular, another Inquisitor regular. Good to see you mate. Has turned on video, so that's always a good sign. Can you hear me, Gus?
Hello.
How you doing, mate?
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Can you see me?
Yes. I can. Although I seem to be sideways for some reason. How do I rotate 90 degrees?
That's not a problem, mate. I can't see you, but this usually happens that one of us can't see somebody. So, but when we upload onto YouTube, then everybody will see everybody when it goes on YouTube. Sometimes on Instagram, it just doesn't work like that the first time round. So, I don't want to jinx us and have it not work. It took just 20 minutes last week to get it working. So, yeah.
Is there a way to rotate this? I'm at a 90-degree angle.
Well, do you want to? I know Casey's on time. Mark that down in your bingo cards, people. What I'll do is I'll stop this and we'll try again and try and get you the proper way around.
It might be because I'm on my iPad. Hold on.
Well, it could be. You may have to rotate your iPad.
Yeah. Hold on. I might have to set up the mount for it.
Yep. Casey, are you there? No. It says he's here. Casey? Turn the iPad 90 degrees. All right, Warpy, how you doing? All right. Pastor War Pirate, thanks for joining. So if anybody's got any questions, as I was saying at the start, throw them in the chat and we'll try and get either myself or Gus. Myself or Casey will throw them at Gus. Death Bios Gaming, thanks for joining. Thanks for joining, mate. I'm still watching your Instagram when you're on with us. I think it's still being watched. So yeah, it's great to have people that we've already had on come on and watch as well. Always good. So are you sorted, Gus, or are you still fighting with the angles?
Yeah. No, I think I'm there. Just sorting out my lighting now.
So you said you were making a cup of tea there before you started. What type of tea? What tea drinking? What would be your tea bag of choice?
I generally go with whatever the supermarket brand is that's cheapest, but I'm a connoisseur of all all of the green leafy beverage. I'll take it as it comes, really. Although Tetley, I won't drink Tetley because for some reason it has a really weird.
I loved Tetley. Mind you, I think it's more that I loved the Tetley tea adverts.
Yeah.
I think I
Old
liked
Stanley and Stanley and the Gaffer and that.
Yeah. It took them 3 years to get it 10 Tetley blending room. So, Casey, are you alive? Are you with us? Because I can't see anything. Can anybody see Casey? Because
he was there briefly and now he's disappeared again.
As his screen just went to his profile picture, which is just his pajama. So that means probably turned off his video. Yeah. So, Gus, thanks very much for joining us on the Inquisition. It's been a turbulent. There's no Casey, right? Okay, I'm going to chuck Casey out and see if I'm going to remove Casey, and then hopefully we can try and get him back in. Yeah, but I'm going to fire on this now because we seem to be working, and then he is putting another request in. So, as I was saying, it's taken a bit of time for us to get you on. I think we had a bit of a mix-up.
Yeah.
I think your schedule to come on in February and we get mixed up with times and all that sort of jazz. I can only apologise on my part as well.
Oh, no, I mean, I've got to take some of the blame on that one as well. That because what actually happened the first time was that I thought I'd replied to you. It was one of those things where you suggested the day and time and everything. I typed it out, got distracted by something else, and in my head I had replied.
Oh, don't worry.
When I came back, the message was just sitting there going, "Oh, damn."
Oh man, I mean, it's totally fine now. We've got you on now, and that's the main thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're probably one of the with you and Mike Mose, you're probably the first two people that I followed on Instagram and then found on Twitch, I'll alternate between the two years, and whoever's on that particular day, I'll alternate between the two years. But I'm going to kick it off with the first question. All right, Casey, are you there? Aye.
Yeah, I'm here. I don't know. I can't see either of you. I can hear you though. So yeah, just crack on.
I can see you.
As long as someone can see me.
That beautiful visage right there.
Sorry about that. It's,
that's a gorgeous bit of beard going on. In fact, there's a whole range of beardiness going on right here. That's just absolute beautiful perfection.
It's all just I can't be asked to shave it.
The laziness of geekery.
Beautiful.
Mine's is more that I'm going bald and I need to have hair somewhere from the neck up. So
I'll shave this and send you some. Yeah.
No, I can't even have more hair posted to me. The missus will definitely think there's something going on. Strange men sending me hair again. It just isn't what we do.
I mean, I've got plenty of spare hair on my back you can have if you want it. But
that's a bit good question that I'm really kind of fire into later on, actually. I'll make that down.
Have you got a hair back?
At what point do you tell a girl you've got a hairy back? Like, how does that come up in conversation? But as we always, the way we kick this Inquisition off, we always ask the same question, Gus. So, what age were you when you first started doing miniature painting, and what was the first model that you painted?
Well, that is a long and difficult one to remember, actually. I believe, and this is probably not entirely accurate, but this is as much as I can remember. Cast your minds back to the late 80s. So, a small boy of no more than 8 years old, and his friend of the family, who is, you know how everyone has those like friends of your parents that who you call your uncles, but they're not.
Yeah,
yeah. But well, I had an Uncle Rob like that, and one day he was very much into sort of like 2000 AD and the sort of the geek culture was around in the 80s, and one day he brought home this brand new game called Hero Quest. Oh. Yeah, and it was like, ooh, what's this? And so we sat, we played some games and stuff, and I really, really loved it. I absolutely just fell in love with the game, and Whenever me and my dad and him were all together and that, we'd always play through like all the different mission books and everything. He bought all the expansions for it. My father, who was very much a sci-fi nerd growing up, he was very into his like Star Wars and Star Trek and everything, and he found out that there was a sci-fi version of this game called Space Crusade, and so immediately, for my next birthday or Christmas, I can't remember which, he went out and bought it, and so I had my own game, and it was all Space Marines and all these different like alien models and everything. And I remember looking at all the artwork on the side of the box, and I landed on what you would now know as a Necron, but was known at the time as a Chaos Android. I actually have one kicking around over. There we go, yeah. One of these fellas. Where's my camera? There it is. One of these little fellas. And I tried painting it like it looked like on the side of the box. Now, my father, he was into like Airfix kits and stuff, and he used to build those. So we had like a bunch of like the like Tamiya and Humbrol with like enamel paints and everything. So I started painting with that, and it looked absolutely god awful. It's like it was an absolute travesty, and I kind of got halfway through doing it and gave up. And then it wasn't for about another like 5 years or so when I was in secondary school. I walked past a newsagent's and I picked up a white dwarf, and it was like, "Ooh, I recognise those as the Space Marines. I remember those from that game I used to play." And yeah, I just kind of thumbed through that, and well, the rest is history from there, really. Because that I literally thumbed through that issue of White Dwarf, and I made my Christmas list from it that year. So.
Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry if that was
Just say,
a bit long-winded.
No.
But, yeah.
I don't know, you're grand. I was going to say, there's something magical about when we were kids. You have to pick up a magazine. You get shoved the Argos catalogue, stuff like that for Christmas. That was how you did stuff. None of this internet malarkey.
Yeah,
you know,
no.
They don't know how good they've got it nowadays.
Yeah.
But
I'm just going to interject a wee bit here, right? Now, getting thrown the Argos catalogue was
I was
brilliant.
literally just about to say,
Was brilliant when you were dead young, but finding a Littlest catalogue when you find out what boobies were, that was even better when you'd look through the bras and that. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Yeah. See, literally, I never used to make Christmas lists or a birthday list. I just used to sit with the new Argos catalogue. I used to get excited when the new Argos catalogue came out, because then I'd literally turn to like the back 1/8 of the book, because that was the toy section. That was where the toys were. And it was like literally I'd sit there with a marker pen just going, I want one of those, I want one of those, I want one of those. I didn't get even a sort of 1% fraction of what the things that I'd put rings around and that. But yeah, my parents weren't exactly the richest in the world, and but they did their best for me.
I always remember one of the first places I saw 40k outside of a Games Workshop was an Argos catalogue. They had it in there back in the day. I think second edition, if I remember right.
Yeah. In fact, that was the very one that I made my Christmas list out of the back of the White Dwarf. But I'd also seen Warhammer 40,000, the second edition box. I think that's where my parents actually got it from. So. I remember back in the day it was £40.
Yeah.
It seemed like a hell of a lot of money for a game.
Don't. I remember third edition being 50 quid. Two squads, a rule book, and some extra bits. But yeah. So you're mainly a Twitcher yourself there, Gus the Hutt.
Yes.
What got you onto Twitch?
Well, it probably all started about 7-8 years ago, with a very ill-fated attempt to start a YouTube channel. Yeah, don't go looking for it. It's there are videos on there, and oh my god, I was like, oh, these are so cringe. These are so cringy. There's a couple on there that I'm actually kind of proud of. There's one where I do a stylized war, which was actually a video competition entry to somebody else's channel, a competition that I actually won. So yeah, so that one's actually kind of worth a watch. And the other one on there is there's a video I did. It's kind of dated now. That's it's it's kind of like a satire. It's like the old sort of informational Mr. Chumley Warner kind of video style.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's what happens when you combine wargamers and the internet. What are the results? And yeah, I had a lot of fun filming that. That was quite funny. But yeah, so I a lot of traction with it, and I was kind of got to the point where I was putting in way more effort than I was getting out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, yeah, you know what, I'm not going to carry on with this. Fast forward to like 2020 and the lockdowns and everything and that, and all of a sudden I'm stuck at home and I'm bored, and I start discovering Twitch as something to watch, and I start discovering, oh, there are people on here sitting down and painting and chatting and basically keeping themselves occupied. They've got a captive audience at the moment because everyone's stuck at home.
Yeah.
And yeah, they seem to, and I'm just sitting there thinking, you know what, I could do this. It's like this looks like a lot of fun, and it's like with like a fraction of the effort that I was putting into making content for YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you just sit down, you go live, and you chat, and you record yourself painting, and so that's kind of how I got started with it. But I didn't have I didn't even have a decent computer at the time or anything. I was literally just streaming on my phone. I downloaded the Streamlabs app onto my phone and literally just held it above my painting area and just started streaming.
And it's you know, looking at the sort of your follower count and how everything's gone for you, it's fair to say it's gone pretty good.
I can't complain. I can't say that it's been entirely my doing. I've had a lot of help very early on in my streaming, and that as you might know, I'm affiliated sort of very loosely with Griffin Gaming, and basically Griffin Gaming started trading sort of in late 2019 and that, and they were sort of just getting into the sort of hobby trade side of things, and because it's literally opened like a 10-minute walk from my front door, and now I've sort of made myself very present and was like, hi, my name's, well, I didn't introduce myself as Gus because, funnily enough, that's not my real name. Yeah, so I said I did a bit of commission work and stuff, and if they were interested in me doing any work for them and that, then let me know. And so they got me to do some like commission work for them. And eventually, once I started doing the Twitch streaming and that, I was like really excited about it. I was like, I'm really, really into this thing. So I went in there and started chatting about it, and it was like, yeah, I'm doing this new thing I've discovered called Twitch. And they were like, what's Twitch? They didn't have any clue what Twitch even was. So I was sitting there explaining it, and they saw an opportunity. They saw an opportunity to get their name out there a little bit. So they were like, okay, we want to provide you with some equipment. We're going to loan you a computer and all the like streaming equipment, everything, so you can basically level up your streams to be a little bit more professional. And in return, all you have to do is promote our business a little bit and maybe do some collaborative projects and stuff. And I was like, yeah, brilliant. Yeah, where do I sign? Yeah. So you want me to just carry on doing what I'm doing, and I get free stuff? Okay. Yeah.
I'd say no.
Yeah.
It's hard to say no to, as a Scotsman, it's hard to say no to freebies. You know what I mean? Can you say no to a good wee freebie now and again? So what separates you from a lot of people that I follow on Twitch is that your family is really heavily involved in it as well. Sometimes we see Mrs. Gus,
Yeah,
and sometimes your daughter's also on as well. Was that a family decision, or was it just a case of your missus and your daughter wanted to get involved, or was it just something you kind of, as a close family, you just decided to do?
I think it's just kind of. I mean, I'm a very open individual in that, and when I do something and I throw myself into anything and that, it affects my family. And anything I do, anything I'm excited about, they kind of want to, they are naturally automatically a part of it because they are a part of my life. And when I'm adding in a very big new aspect of my life, it's very hard for them not to be kind of part of it. I never went out of my way to kind of include them, but it's just kind of, they were kind of always kind of a presence in the background kind of thing that I never tried to hide them away or anything. So, and my daughter, who's currently literally right behind me right now, don't know if you can see her back there. Yeah, there she is.
Yeah, and that's the good thing, because you get a lot of people that it's just them in their stream, but with you and with your Discord as well, it's a very family Discord. It's like, I don't want to say the word safe space, but it is. It's kind of like a home from homes, if that makes sense.
I've tried to be as welcoming as I can. I'm very open and welcoming to absolutely everybody. I mean, I'm the kind of person that I can get on with anyone of any kind of background or philosophy, or like I can find something to talk about with anyone. And I'm just a very open person.
Yeah. So.
I'm just very welcoming. I try to be anyway.
And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on as well, because we try and get people from all over, and to show that like Twitch is also like it can be so family friendly as well. But we've got a couple of questions here in the chat. Mrs. G says, "Will we see more Mrs. G streams?" and we've also got 2 questions from what I initially read was the sex hobbyist, but it turns out it's the Essex hobbyist.
I thought that as well.
Yeah. Everybody calls him that.
I'm pretty sure that yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's his name in your Twitch as well. Why is Gus called Gus the Hutt? And what is the oldest model that you currently have in your collection?
Oh God, oldest model. I'll answer. I'll have to think about that second one. The Mrs. G question. The answer to that is that you could only answer that by the person that asked the question. That's entirely up to Mrs. G. She is welcome to stream whenever she wishes.
There you go. She's heard it.
Yep. Oldest model I own in my collection.
And why you called Gus the Hutt as well?
Oh no, I actually know the oldest model I own. Well, if you're going by oldest model that I've had the longest, it will be this one, and it's one that I've had sitting in my collection since that first Christmas.
Oh, excellent.
The oldest model I own is probably the Space Crusade stuff, but that half of the bits of that have gone missing over the years. So yeah, little Mister, he is from my initial collection of models. But the first model for like Warhammer, when I actually started getting into it, is this little fella, the original Gazgol.
Oh, nice.
And to this day, he's never had a paint job. Like in what 30 years? Yeah.
What your age now, Gus?
No, longer than that. Is it longer than that? God, it's longer than that.
Yeah,
late 80s. It'll be probably getting close to 35 years since I played those initial games of Space Crusade. But yeah, it's probably about 30 years ago when I picked this guy up. I remember it was actually after Christmas that I got that, because I got the main box game for Christmas, and then I wanted to add to it. So all the money I got for Christmas, my dad took me to the Games Workshop that was in Lakeside at the time. The Lakeside one. It was right upstairs in the food court, if you know it. It's not there anymore, unfortunately. But yeah, I remember just walking in there and just going, "Oh, heaven, heaven, heaven!" And yeah, I picked up three things with my money. I picked up the Gazgol, So I had a leader model for my orcs that came in the main box. I picked up the old Ultramarines Captain model, the one with the big Roman centurion helmet plume over his head. And the other thing was the expansion box there, the Dark Millennium box, which was for... I think we may have lost Dunk.
Hopefully not, because we're still talking. He might have just frozen up. He sometimes does this thing where he just stares off into space.
Or no,
and you think you've lost him.
It's just gone to his profile picture.
Oh, he's probably yelling at his kid or something.
All right. So yeah, that's the oldest models that I have. Now the name Gus the Hutt. Okay. So back when I'd been into the hobby for a few years at this point, and I started sort of branching out into some other areas. I joined in with the local games club and everything, and seen that there's more to the world than just Warhammer. And so people are playing these other games, and there's this card game that a lot of people are playing called Magic the Gathering, and I was like, oh, what's that? That looks really interesting. So I sort of start getting into that, picking up some Magic cards, and then I'm into the hobby for a little ways. After a few years, I actually get a job after I finished secondary school. I got a little Saturday job while I was at college, running the demo games in my local hobby shop. This was long before Griffin Gaming. This was another hobby shop, which is actually still operating to this day in the main town. But yeah, I was their Saturday boy, and I was running demo games. So they were selling Magic cards and all these D&D and all stuff like that. Which I also got into around the sort of 2000s-ish. But there was this set that came out for Magic the Gathering called Unglued, which was a very kind of meme-y set before being a meme was even a term. But yeah, it was like this joke set that none of the cards were serious, and that you had things like elvish impersonators and things like that. It's like an elf dressed up as Elvis. It's like it's silly things like that. And one of the cards in there was called Gus. Now, at the time, a lot of people seemed to reckon that the artwork on the card bore a striking resemblance to myself. If you go look it up, just look up.
You see this card on your Instagram at some point, so there's the Inquisition, if it's a fair name or not. Yeah, so it's if you ever see the card, it's kind of like this big sort of Jabba the Hutt type creature looming over somebody's bed, and he's like going, ugh. And so people started saying, "Look, it's you." And it was like, somebody even got me to sign their card as Gus. I was like, you. But I was picked on quite heavily as a kid and that, and I kind of learned to. There's two ways of dealing with people that come up with nicknames and bully and stuff like that, and it's either to do something about it or just go with it and just lean into it. And I path of least resistance and all that, I just steered into it. And so after many years, many of my friends to this day still call me Gus, and most of them probably don't even remember why. And so when I was creating screen names for games or anything like that, I would always try and tap myself in as Gus, and it's like, oh, Gus is still really taken. It's like, well, he looked kind of Jabba the Hutt-ish in the image, so it just became Gus the Hutt. And it's like, and to this day, I can type in Gus the Hutt as a new username on any platform, and it's like, yeah, this isn't taken.
It's one of those things, like you say, you just end up owning it, don't you? And it's probably it's been the best. It becomes what you know now. I mean, it shocks Dunk and it shocks a lot of people when they find out that Casey isn't actually my first name; it's my surname. And I'm not telling everyone what my first name is on the live stream. You can all go to hell. So, another question in the chat for you.
It's Michael. That's what his first name is. It's Michael. How boring is that?
Cheers, Dunk.
I have one of the most mundane real names like ever. So
So, another question in the chat, and I think it actually leans into something I was thinking along. Josh over at Free Spires Gaming asks, considering everything that you're doing, what is your favourite non-Games Workshop game?
favorite non-Games Workshop game. I mean, I got very heavily into my kind of RPGing, and even doing a bit of LARPing for a good number of years. I've kind of fallen back out of a lot of that, so I don't really play much of anything that isn't Games Workshop these days, to be perfectly honest. But I think just playing like Dungeons and Dragons and various other like tabletop role playing systems, and that's probably where I'd fall on my sort of best loved and most passionate projects that I've ever done. Is like running and playing in like tabletop RPGs. So,
cool. And actually, just following on from that, because I've dabbled with D&D, but I've never done it tabletop. How much different of a game does it feel like when you've got an actual map laid out and the minis on the table and you're moving them around, as opposed to just sort of sitting there and thinking the descriptions in your mind and stuff? Does it just make it a bit more real, or does it sort of?
Well, when I say tabletop, I mean that you're all sitting around a table and but basically your character sheets in front of you as a thing to. Yeah, I mean I've played with miniatures as well, but I'm a big advocate for the mind's eye theatre, as it was known at the time. So yeah, I see the sort of miniature side of it as more of a tool to aid your imagination, just because some people have like difficulty when you're a DM and you're describing a scene and stuff. Sometimes it's very difficult, so it just kind of allays the so where am I standing? Who's close to me? Can I do this with that person? Oh no, he's across the other side of the room. Sorry, didn't know that. So yeah, so the miniatures side of thing just kind of helps with that kind of thing. Now, I don't like relying on it, which was kind of part of the reason why I got out of D&D, because I was very heavily into D&D during like the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons 2nd edition and into 3rd edition. When 4th edition dropped, it kind of became a miniatures game, and I kind of like I was like I don't really like this, so I sort of moved on to like playing other systems and that, and I haven't really gone back to D&D. I still have. I actually sold a lot of them recently, but I still have my my 3.5 player's handbook over here. Oh, cool. There goes me orc. But yeah, I still have my 3.5 player's handbook there. So
Cool. And I tell you what, the sexy hobbyist is coming in thick and fast tonight. Question for all three of us, and I tell you what, we'll go Gus, Dunk, me. But what is our favourite Games Workshop game, best edition, and why? So we'll start with yourself, Gus, then go to Dunk, and then back to me.
Easy. Blood Bowl all the way. I've loved the game since the moment I saw it. It was actually featured in that original White Dwarf, and it was literally a toss-up between, do I want Blood Bowl or do I want Warhammer 40,000? I made my choice at the time, and later on I picked up Blood Bowl, and I was like, oh my god, I made the wrong choice. This is amazing.
So yourself, Dunk.
Well, I don't really play tabletop games, so I'm going to cop out here and just say Dawn of War 2, because I bought the expansion pack and Soulstorm and all that, and played that heavily on my laptop. But as a lot of people know, I'm a big advocate for Battle Masters. There's a lot to check off in your bingo cards, people.
Here you go. Get your Battle Masters in.
I never played Battle Masters. I knew of it, but I never played it.
Go on, Dunk. Off you go.
I think I'm the only person in the UK that actually owned it. The map was bigger than the map was bigger than a Subbuteo map or map. It was huge, man. Absolutely huge.
I knew somebody that had it, but I never played it with her. And I remember it was always sold in the Argus catalogue right next to Hero Quest and Space Crusade, and it was like the trifecta of Games Workshop MB games.
Yeah. Myself, probably say my favourite is Mordheim. Just love the aesthetics of it. I love it, the classic look of it. It was everything that was fantasy back in the day. So yeah, here we go.
I did buy Underworld recently, so I'm going to try and track that out and try and play it. But that was sorry.
Oh yeah, you did, didn't you? Yeah. So
I've yet to
right.
open it.
Yeah, what?
I've yet to open it.
Open it then, you lazy shite. So, with considering what you've said a minute ago about Griffin Games being on your doorstep, helping you out with stuff, it's probably handy that you've got, a really reputable local game shop on your doorstep. With everything that is out there nowadays, and this is something that we do like to get an idea of when we speak to people. Are you a purist of you will only use Citadel paints, the brushes, or do you dabble? Do you have a preferred brand? How do you hobby basically?
Right. So for the longest time, like I said, I was very much on the Games Workshop train. It was what I knew. I didn't really know what else was out there. Hadn't really been exposed to much else. The hobby shop that I worked for back in the late 90s, early 2000s, miniatures wise, they had one side of the shop was all Games Workshop stuff with a bit of D&D at the back, and then the other side was all Airfix kits. And on the Games Workshop side, you had your Citadel paints, and over on the Airfix kits, you had your Humbrol paints, and that was it. And that was all they had. And it was like, well, I know that the enamel paints over there are no good, so I'm just going to stick with those. But as time has gone on, mostly since I started streaming and doing like some commission work and that, I've kind of dabbled in a lot more other companies' paints and that. I mean, I can. I'm literally sitting at my painting desk now, so I can literally grab. There's Army Painter. There's some TT Combat paint. There's some Pro Acryl. I've got there's some Vallejo. So what else we got? We got some Tooth and Coats there. So yeah, I've literally dabbled in a little bit of everything over as time has gone on. I mostly have Citadel paints though, but more to do with the fact that that's just what I'm used to.
Yeah, that makes sense. Just because you've dropped the name there, the TT Combat stuff, how have you found that? Because I've got a Troll Trader shop not too far away from me, like one of the only ones that exist. And they're obviously, every time I go in there, like, oh, do you know we sell our own brands? And I've never really taken the plunge, but how have you found it?
Quite good, actually. I mean, I was actually quite lucky in, I actually got invited to the Troll Trader, like TT Combat studio. It was about this time last year. And this was before the actual release had happened for the paints, and I actually got to try them all out. And cool. I was a guest host on one of their streams, and I got to paint one of my models and that using all the new paints, and they're actually not bad. I say not bad. I wouldn't say there's anything particularly to set them apart as being much better than what else has to offer, but by no means are they of lower quality at all. Okay. And they're actually, I would say they're comparable. And the thing that I do like quite a bit about these is that, well, the size of the bottles is slightly bigger than your average, but I am a huge hater of dropper bottles. And this is going to be a very unpopular opinion here. I hate dropper bottles. I can't stand them. I much prefer using paint from a pot. I have very little control as to how much paint comes out of the dropper bottle when I try and apply it to my palette. I end up wasting so much paint when all I need is a little dab. And when you've got a pot, you can just flip it open, take a little bit out, put it on your palette. It's literally just like a tiniest little sliver. The thing that I like about these TT Combat paints is that they have a very uniquely designed spout, and that it's like a pinprick hole. The amount of control you have from that spout is really good, and so I can actually control those much better. And plus, they come with child safety caps as well. So, If I'm trying to paint
always
drunk, I
times.
can't end up accidentally drinking my paint.
Which we all do with our Nolan oil, as everyone knows. We've got it down in Nolan oil. So, and with obviously, I'm not a Twitcher. I'm not going to lie. Don't knows it. Everyone I think who jumps in and out of our streams know. I think I'm the opposite. That I'm just a bit too long in the tooth to be jumping into too many different things nowadays. Looking at your Instagram, obviously, I've seen like a good varied band of stuff. You've got your Necromunda stuff on there. You've got your own bits and bobs that you've dabbled with. Where you obviously a minute ago said Blood Bowl's your preferred game of choice at the minute. How much do you get to gain with the other stuff as well?
So I've recently just actually finished running a Necromunda campaign for the sort of local community, which went like really well, and I kind of really gotten into that as of late. It's probably my second favourite Games Workshop game, but I don't get a huge amount of time to play games, not as much as I'd like. I mean, I actually normally run the Griffin Gaming Club Night once a week, but even then, it's like a question of I'm just the guy with the keys, and sometimes there's other people like turn up and play. Sometimes I organise a game, but most of the time I'm just the dude weighing down the carpet so people can have a space that they can go to and use once a week. But yeah, I don't get a huge amount of time to play, especially since doing the streaming and that, because between work, family time, and streaming and that, there's not a huge amount of time for me to do just things for me.
Yeah, I get you on that. Yeah.
So like you covered just there with Casey, like the paints that you use. You never really said what brushes that you use. Are you a high end man, or are you just a kind of if you see a brush you like sort of man?
I mean, I've tried many over the years. I mean, I'm also somebody that never throws anything away. I have like every brush I've ever owned, and I think there's actually one in here that here we go. There's one. I don't throw anything away. There's literally no bristles on that brush. It's literally just a stump.
It'll come in handy for something.
Yeah, and look, that's a really old Games Workshop brush right there. But just recently, I've discovered the joy that is the Rosemary & Co. Kalinsky Sables, and do you know what? I am so impressed with them. They're not like top high end, like your Winsor and Newtons and things like that. Although I'm pretty convinced they are basically the same brushes. You're just paying for the name. But yeah, they're not the cheapest in the world, but they're by no means the most expensive either. So they're a nice kind of middle point. I mean, you're spending like between £6 and £8 for a brush, which is you can get cheaper, but there are also way more expensive ones out there. But yeah, I think that price to quality, they are like a perfect compromise.
I'm going to come away from the hobby life and we're going to delve into Gus now.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go. So me and Casey, we like our crisps. We've asked the crisp question to a lot of people. We've had some weird combinations, like the guy that does our graphics, he likes to eat quavers on a sandwich with sour cream. That's weird. What type of crisp are you into?
Easy. Favourite crisp? Pickled onion Monster Munch. All the way.
Solid.
What would be your least favourite crisp if you had to eat it?
Anything spicy. I just don't do anything with any kind of spice. I've actually always claimed that this is kind of like a superpower. I love to cook, and I have a very sensitive palate to flavors. So I'm actually I'm really good at experimenting with like flavor combinations and different herbs and stuff, and I really enjoy kind of just like discovering new ways to cook. It's led to a few disasters in that. I'm not allowed to use tarragon on anything that a recipe doesn't call for anymore as a result of one of my experiments. It is the forbidden herb. But because of that, because of my superpowers come with a super weakness. Because I have such a sensitive palate to flavors, I get any kind of level of spice on my tongue, I can't handle it. It just burns. I just can't do it. Like a medium pepperoni is probably about my limit of spiciness. Yeah, seriously.
Have you ever tried to make your own crisps then?
I don't think I have. No.
Not until now. Not until now.
Yeah, I
try
probably
and
had a few accidents with cutting some chips too thin, but yeah.
See, I'm going to jump in quick.
Yep.
Just the spice thing. I like spicy stuff, but I've recently had the extra hot Doritos, and they were just too much. There was just no need. It was just like eating. Someone had just emptied a thing of chili powder into a pack of Doritos and just said, "There you go." There was no need for it. I mean, I ate them. I ate the whole bag. It was one of the big bags as well. I'm not going to beat about the bush. I'm a fat fuck. But yeah, there's no need. Nah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, the sex hobbyist has said in chat, I have a video of him eating a KFC hot wing. Very comical. Now, we had on St. Celestine last week, and we got into the discussion of pies, and we were talking about our various love of different pies. So this is a new question, as well, it's probably the second time we've asked it. What would be your favourite pie?
That's good.
A
lot of pork going on in this one. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge pastry lover. Short crust pastry and that and me don't really get on. But having said that, I do like a nice like fruit pie, like an apple pie or something like that.
That's acceptable.
Yeah, I'm very on board with that. Now, the only exception to my hate of pastry is I love anything that's made with like phyllo pastry. So like you buy like the tinned Fray Bentos pies and that, and I'll just sit there and I'll just eat one of those. And
Yeah.
They're lovely.
No, you've lost me on Fray Bentos. I'm sorry. My dad used to love the steak and kidney one, and just the smell of it just always used to make my stomach turn. But he's from the 50s, so you know. It's exactly. So, as part of these questions, what we also ask is, you've had your crisps, you've had your fruit pie because you don't like savoury. That's fine. What are you washing it down with Coke or Pepsi?
Now, I'm not much of a snob on this front, but gun to hair, I love both. I absolutely love both. What I will not have is any kind of store brand cola. No, just go away with that shit. No. The only one that ever came close to being good, and they didn't do it anymore, was Virgin Cola, if you ever remember that one.
Yes.
Yeah. A Virgin Cola was as close to like Coca-Cola and Pepsi as you'll ever get from a third-party brand. But they stopped doing it. But gun to head, I prefer Coke to Pepsi because Pepsi gets a little too sweet and sickly. I like them both, but Pepsi is a lot sweeter, and I prefer a Coke.
Not many people remember the old Virgin Cola nowadays, and it was about for like a good 2 or 3 years, wasn't it? Like it was just one of those mad Richard Branson things.
It was all the way through the 90s and that we had that.
Yeah, I only remember.
Do you remember Panda Cola? That was like battery acid. You get it in like farm foods. You would get it in like farm foods and that. Oh, that was the lowest of the low. That was next to Tango before Tango had their advertisement campaigns that made it popular.
See, Panda Pops, we used to get them in school, in secondary school, and if I was flagging in a day, I'd have a cherry one because it would send me through the roof. It would just make me hyper. Don't know why. Just it wasn't the sugar because it's probably the same amount of sugar in all of them, but it would just send me skay And if I had like PE in the afternoon, I'd neck a cherry panda pop and I'd just be running around like a lunatic. It was always, I'd be knackered by the time I got home. But yeah, that was that. So, other stuff that we tend to ask about, because obviously everyone's, there's lots of different combined interests out there in the world. You mentioned all the sci-fi stuff that, your dad and your fake uncle were into, that you sort of would have rubbed off on you back in the day. And this is like a common thing throughout a lot of our chats that we have with people. We don't pry too much, but it's always nice to know a bit of where your interests lie. So films is always a big one. What are we talking here for you? Are we talking sci-fi films, horror films, anything else?
I will enjoy a bit of everything. If you actually look at my top 5 like film list and that, it's quite an eclectic mix. Absolute favorite film, Aliens. Like absolute masterpiece of cinema. It's like I'm sorry, I will fight anybody. I will die on this hill. It's like the best thing ever put to film, as far as I'm concerned. In no particular order, my other top 5 are Schindler's List. Absolutely banger of a film, and the film that's guaranteed to make me cry every time at the end.
Where's the end? Where's that end bit?
Yeah. It was just like right in the feels. Up there with that, we've got Knight's Tale, good old Heath Ledger.
Oh, no, that's shite, man.
Oh no, brilliant film, absolutely. I will thong you.
You're banging Sean Connery's fucking wife, man. It's a shite film.
Jeffrey Chaucer, for God's sake. That thing was written in like the 1200s. It's a piece of shit anyway. So at least they did a decent job of it.
But yeah, that's on my top list. Weirdly enough, a film I loved from my childhood that was always on, and it was an old film when I was a kid. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Those Magnificent Men in Their Flying Machines.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Always on Channel 4, like around Easter or something.
Yeah, always was. Absolute I loved that film as a kid. Absolutely loved it.
You know a film you don't see now that we're always on in Easter? Water Down, the most horrific film to watch as a child of all fucking time.
Yeah.
It was great.
I must say, Secret of Nim better. If you don't see The Secret of Nim, no?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I prefer that. Very similar kind of style and tone. I mean, I think it was actually, I think they were both like Don Bluth animations. But yeah, Secret of Nim over Watership Down, definitely.
Watership Down was horrific, man. That was just like torture as a child to watch that. I remember watching it going, what the fuck is going on? It was mental. So
yeah,
we had a big discussion last week, right? We like to go off in these tangents about when we go off hobby about certain various topics, and one of the topics we were talking about last week was music. So if you're doing painting yourself or you're chilled out in a moment, what would be your secret guilty pleasure to listen to? Mine would be Backstreet Boys. I'm a big Backstreet Boys fan. What would yours be?
See, this is kind of a sticking point for me because I've never been much of a music fan, like absolutely ever. Having said that, I'm with you on the Backstreet Boys thing. I have owned a grand total of 3 music albums in my entire life. 3 of them were Queen. One of them was Will Smith's Millennium.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's a good album. Don't. Yeah.
And the Backstreet Boys Millennium album. Yeah, can you guess the year that I asked for music CDs for Christmas? But yeah, so yeah, that's pretty much my entire ownage of music. I really didn't grow up listening to music much. I mean, my dad was. I grew up in the age of cassettes and vinyl, and it was kind of an event to put music on. If the music was on, the telly was off, and it was very rare the telly was ever off.
Yeah, like I would have been. I would have grown up listening to like Alice Cooper and shite for the 60s and 70s. That's what my mum listened to, which morphed my musical taste. So when you are doing like, if you are doing painting, what do you, when you are doing your own painting or whatever, what do you listen to? Do you listen to podcasts or books or TV shows or what?
Largely, I'm actually quite content just sitting with my own thoughts and just contemplating. But when I'm not doing that, I tend to lean towards listening to a bit of stand-up comedy.
And who would be your who's the person you're listening to this now?
I think most recently I've been going back through a lot of Dara O'Brien's sort of back library of stuff. I basically I will listen to anything that makes me laugh. And basically anything that I can find on YouTube mostly.
I'm a big American comedy fan. I like a lot of Bill Burr stuff,
Right.
and I just like finding comedians through comedians sort of thing. What about yourself, Casey?
Comedy wise, this is something I don't think we've ever covered, so this is actually quite a good one. Bill Burr, yeah, again, I think he's great, some of the stuff he does, and I think it's the sort of the dad humor he does, and it's just like you sit there and you're like, yeah, you know what, right, you're right, and that's the thing, you sort of agree with him, you're laughing, but you're in the back of your mind, you're like, this is funny because it's happened to me.
Like, what do this gets always get people to listen to when I'm talking about Bill Burr. The first one would be when he talks about becoming a dictator and building cruise ships, then sinking them because everything sinks and there's no evidence, but then rebuilding exact copies so nobody knows. And the other one would be when he talks about Rihanna getting hit with Chris Brown, and he kind of uses it as a sports analogy, saying, well, why did he hit her? Like, were they having a big, massive fight, end of relationship fight? And he kind of goes, why can't we just ask, like, what caused him to hit her? Not saying he's justifying, like, hitting's right or because we all know it's wrong. And he goes on this whole tangent about it. I think because it's kind of like old school Billy Connolly, it's like kind of stories. You can kind of like go, oh yeah, well, what would you do if you were a dictator? He's quite funny, like.
I would also say, and I was actually chatting to my girlfriend about this the other day, Doug Stanhope, big fan of some of the stuff he's done just because he's ridiculous. Seen him live a couple of times as well, and he's been good. Apart from that, I don't really like a lot of the mainstream UK ones. Like,
Really?
yeah, I just can't get bored with them. I've tried. Don't get me wrong. I have tried. I promise you. I think the big one for me, Peter Kay, right? Phoenix Nights was amazing. Brilliant.
Have tickets.
Some of the stuff he's done, brilliant, amazing. His stand-up is bang average. Well, that's
I've got tickets to go see him next month.
I think everyone I know's got tickets, but my parents got tickets and bought them last year. Yeah. This is the thing. She had to buy them so far in advance. Like my girlfriend's sister bought them, and she bought them like last year for next year. It's the insanity of it. The popularity is insane.
Well, the thing is that anyone that can make a routine about what is the best kind of biscuit for dunking in your tea, I'm sorry, I'm just on board.
His early stuff was good. It's like Ricky Gervais, I find the stuff that he writes in TV, like some of his stuff, I found The Office brilliant, and I found the one we did with... No, not Extra, the one we did, like, the different skits that he did. I found that funny, but I don't find his stand-up funny. It's the same for, like, Jimmy Carr.
I find him quite irritating.
I find Jimmy Carr funny on TV, on Countdown, or 8 out of 10 Cats, but I've watched his stand-up. I don't find it funny at all. I just think he's, like, posh twat.
See, I've actually seen him film an episode of 8 out of 10 Cats, and you know, if you ever watch him doing a show, there'll be a bit where he tells a joke, and then he stands there and he does this with his hands, and he waves his arms around, and that's because no one's laughed or there's been a few chuckles. So then they dub the laugh track over it. That's like his signal to be like, that's not gone down well. Someone dub over it, so I'm funnier. Yeah. And I never clocked it until I was actually in the audience. Yeah.
I actually saw Jimmy Carr in stand up. I think it was at Great Yarmouth Pier 1 year, and that I saw him there. and
Right.
it was actually quite good then. But
Right, folks, I'm going to have to stop it there and restart another one because I'm being limited by Instagram
Give me a
because of some
warning still.
comments I've put up. And I'm getting a countdown here from like 30 seconds down to 0. So we're going to stop it there, and I'll restart another one, and we can continue
Cool.
another Inquisition if you're happy enough with that, Gus. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm down to clown.
Right.
I'll see you in 2 minutes, folks. And we're back for part 2 of the Inquisition with Gus and Casey. We will continue our slagging off of Jimmy Carr because he's a posh twat. And Instagram, please unrestrict my videos for an hour, man. It would be much appreciated. Usually when we do the second part, everybody can see everybody as well. So here's hoping that we can actually see everybody this time as well, which will absolutely be brilliant. So I'm just waiting for Casey and Gus to send us some requests. Hey, Three Spires, Colin, how you doing? Thanks for joining back, mate. Much appreciated. We usually lose a few followers because they think that's it finished. But hopefully we can get back everybody who was on before. And as I say, if you've got any questions, don't hesitate to throw them in the chat. We've had a good few questions already for Gus or Ian. So throw the questions in, and we start. Yeah, thanks for coming back on Dark and Rhymes. Stephen Fry is funny. Yeah, he is funny, but he's always been funny. But I just feel like some British comedians just like once they hit a certain level, like a big Frankie Boyle fan, and then he kind of just got shit. But that's just me. So in. So hope Gus comes back on. I'm trying to let you in. Since in a minute. Frankie Boyle. It's all my dog's side. On Dark and Minds, if I had my one way, I wouldn't let Pinge in, but it's part of my community service. I think you're back in, Ian.
Yep.
Casey, I think you might have to jump out and then jump back in because it's not accepting your request to come in. So you might have to jump out and jump back in. For some reason, I put on a few comments taking different people's videos that are flagged going against Instagram's policies. Because I had like 2 or 3 of them, I'm now limited to 1 hour videos. So it's a bit of a pain. But we do thank you for coming back on, coming back in, because this is all about you, really.
Yeah. Well.
Usually me and Katie take turns in hosting, but I thought that I would be alright this week, but obviously not. So yeah, it's a pain in the arse. But like last week when we were doing St. Celestine, it took us 20 minutes to get her on Instagram for some reason. Sometimes Instagram's funny like that, where it'll know what it is to like have some people in for ages or that. But I was saying to chat, I don't know if you caught it, like I find a lot of like British comedians and even American ones, like I was a big Kevin Hart fan when he first came out. I thought like his stuff was really quite funny, but I think it's like certain bands, once they hit a certain level of popularity and famousness, if that's a word, like they become shite. Like Red Hot Chili Peppers should have chucked it like 50 years ago. Do you know what I mean? Like, why are the Rolling Stones still touring? Do you know what I mean? Like, I just don't get it. Same with comedians. I just don't. I think some of them should just give up.
I mean, I'll watch anything that makes me laugh, basically. I must admit, I'm not as big a fan of American comedy. I don't kind of, I I don't gel as much with the kind of American style of comedy, the sort of wisecracking one-liners kind of. There's actually a wonderful video of Stephen Fry that going around where he kind of goes into like an in-depth kind of discussion as to what is the difference between like British and American comedy, and he kind of very sort of boils it down to the fact of American comedy is all about like the comedian like being the hero of the story and that getting the one up on like the situation, and that wisecracking his way out of any situation, whereas the British comedy is very kind of self-deprecating, the story of of my greatest failure kind of thing, and the situations that I got into in that, and how life shit on me from a great height in a very humorous way. That's kind of like the very crux of what the difference between like American and British comedy is, and I kind of gel with kind of like the kind of self-deprecation stuff like a little more, I think.
Yeah, like like there was some top tier, like I think on Dark and Wings and Penge, I was going to say Space Hammer there. Penge was saying there, like a lot of Channel 4 stuff is absolutely banging in the mid 90s and early 2000s. The comedy was just so on point.
Yeah. And a lot of that stuff you couldn't get away with today.
Oh, definitely not.
No.
Oh, definitely not. Like, even back then, there was some heavily frowned upon stuff. Like, a lot of the stuff Father Ted did was very, very close to the bone. And up until
I hear
recently,
you're racist now, Father.
yeah, he did pick me up the arse. Like, it was just so funny. Like, I mean, Father Ted was probably one of my favourite all-time comedy shows. It was just way ahead of its time, in my opinion. It was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it's a shame it had to end when it did, because for obvious reasons. But
yeah.
So sadly,
let's try to jump back on the hobby here, because we've done a wee bit now where we talk about off hobby stuff and that sort of stuff. But one more question on the off hobby stuff: when you're not doing your twitching and you're not working doing drift hobbies, what do you like to do in your own downtime?
like I said, I don't get a huge amount of downtime. That's just me. Most of the downtime that I get is spending time with my family. So most of it, my downtime revolves around that, and I love my family. And we the last few years we've been gifted by my in-laws National Trust passes. And so we like to sort of go around and like visit as many different places as we can and get a bit of history and stuff. We've actually switched over to English Heritage this year, so that's what we're going to be spending a lot of our days together doing, like during the summer and that. So it's mostly just any time that I can spend with my family is just precious time to me.
And are you doing like camping, or are you just going out like day trips to certain like wooded areas and forests and stuff?
Yeah, so it's like old like listed buildings, like old manor houses and things like that. Things that and yes, there are sort of like woodland areas and stuff that are on that kind of list. I do like a good walk around the woods. If you go down to the woods today, you might be in for a big surprise.
You see, I got the hut.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like,
so yeah, aside from that, I find it very difficult to get into like anything new to like watch or binge or anything like that. It used to be very much my sort of education on sci-fi growing up was very much through my father, and it was very much whatever he happened to be watching. I kind of watched too. So so I watched a lot of Star Trek when I was a kid.
I think that was the thing. Like growing up in the 80s and 90s, like pretty much 90% of houses only had one TV, and it was in the living room. And if your old man or your mother, like I was brought up with a single parent, basically you watched what they watched, and if you didn't like it, you went to your room, and I would be doing my fighting fantasy novels and playing Hero Quest or Space Crusade myself.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Like, I think that's. I think growing up in the 80s and 90s, I think we've kind of lost that a wee bit now, where like, kids will spend most of their time in their room. Do you know what I mean? With their own things to watch and that as well. I think we, in a kind of family unit, so it's important that we do these. We kind of family excursions. I'd be big into that with like my children when they were growing up. And my son as well, just now, like he's part of the Inquisition. He'll upload the videos onto YouTube for us and do things like that. So it's good to have that kind of family thing going on as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I remember very much being a kid and that. I used to get in trouble if I stayed out too late. It was like, now kids get in trouble if they stay in too much. So,
Yeah, that was a threat when you were younger. You were grounded and you didn't want to be grounded. You wanted to go out, and now it's a threat. I'll send you out when they let us stay indoors. It's like how the tables have turned.
yeah. Well, what's
what I
the
mean?
equivalent of that now? You've got to go drive them and leave them in the woods now as a punishment.
So, make the road way back.
Yeah.
So you work for Drift Gaming, isn't it? Sorry. So and you're also part of DriftCon as well. How did you get involved with that?
Well, I actually want to address a misconception here. I don't actually and have never actually worked for Griffin at all.
Sorry.
No. It's actually quite a common thing because the two of us have collaborated so much over the last few years. It's actually a very common assumption for people to make. And I have done like some days in that where I've covered his shop for him as a favour, so he can have a day off and stuff like that. And like I said, I run his club nights once a week. But it all just kind of stemmed from our kind of friendship that kind of just arose from me introducing myself that fateful day. And just our collaboration that's gone on, and the whole GriffCon thing, is very much Brendan, who is he's the head of Griffin Gaming. GriffCon is very much his baby. I'm just kind of, what do you need me? What do you need me to do? Kind of.
Yeah. When I watch your Twitch, you always promote it every year. And how many years has it been going on now? I don't know.
This will be year 3.
And where does it sit? Where is it located?
So it's actually located at Griffin Gaming. So luckily, the Griffin Gaming shop is located in a larger building called the Latin Bush Centre, and as a part of that larger facility, there is actually like a big. It was actually originally a school, and it got converted into kind of offices and shop units and stuff. So there is still the original kind of like big like sports assembly hall that was part of the original building, and then they hire that out for like events and stuff. So it's literally on his own doorstep. So,
and that's absolutely. I mean, having a big space like that, especially for like something like that, would be absolutely fantastic as well. I imagine it would be. It's just growing year on year. Would that be right?
Yeah, definitely. And we've had some like amazing guests and that have arrived. The likes of like Duncan Rose and Peachy and Louise from Rogue Hobbies and all manner of folks from the community as well. So
yeah, I think Peachy and Louise, they travelled down last year, or they travelled down together last year, I think.
Yeah, they were down last year and that. And I believe they're coming back this year, but don't quote me on that. I've very much kind of stepped away from a lot of the Griffin Gaming kind of side of stuff, so I'm not as involved with the organisation side of it as much as I was, mainly because I just don't have the time. So
yeah. So you say you do commission painting. What would you say would be the biggest gaming system you do commission painting for?
Mostly anything Warhammer related. I don't think I've done a huge amount of commission stuff outside of that. I mean, I would be willing. I actually had somebody asking for a quote to do some Mech Warrior stuff like not too long ago, but I haven't heard back about that. But it's mostly just Warhammer and Age of Sigmar and Blood Bowl and basically anything that. I will paint anything that people ask me to paint, but yeah, it's just seems to be the main things that people ask.
Is there anything on your tier list that you prefer not to paint?
The one thing that I don't do is that I get asked a lot is, will you paint an army for me? It's like a full army project. It's like, I don't really have the time because it's very much, it's either my stream time or my free time, which is not a lot of, is the only time I actually get to paint. So to do like a big sort of army project and that, you'd be looking at far too long a turnaround, and it taking up literally all of my time for like the next 6 months, in order to do a big project like that. So I will do anything up to a point of, I prefer like single models, either small or even larger models. I don't mind doing too much, especially if it's a model that I've not done before. But yeah, it's sort of like a small group of models, like a Blood Bowl team or a Necromunda gang or something like that. I do that. The one that I did just before Christmas, and that was somebody's Warcry warband for them that I did. So that's the kind of sort of range of stuff that I do.
And one of my favourite questions I like to ask people, if you could paint any model that you ever painted, that again, what would be that model that you would love to paint for the first time again?
Now, I have always said this, that Be'lakor, my Be'lakor model is absolutely the most fun I've ever, the most passion I ever put into a model. From the moment that I saw, I mean, I loved the original Be'lakor model. It was actually one of my favourite models, and I'd actually already painted like 2 or 3 different versions. I actually have one to hand. So this is one of the original Be'lakor that I painted pink. And yeah, he's absolutely tiny compared to the current one.
Yeah. When
they revealed that new one, I literally, my jaw just dropped, and I was like, oh. I literally managed, because of my affiliation with Griffin Gaming and that, he let me have my copy like a couple of days early. I ripped that thing open, built it, and started painting immediately. And I spent the next like 2 weeks, like, I was streaming it as well. And yeah, it was just straight on passion project. And I could have gone, I think I went for like 20, 25 hours over the course of like a week and a half. And it just sort of got to the point where it's like, I could do so much more, but no, I need to put the brush down. It's good, it's done, but it's like, oh, I just don't want this to end.
Would you buy another one or get another one and do another one then?
No, I wouldn't go out of my way to. I very much only paint with a purpose.
Right.
I don't paint things for display. I paint things to use in games. I'm very much as much as I don't get time to actually game, I'm very much, the game is foremost in my mind when I'm getting models for any particular reason. It's like, even when I'm painting like third party models, I see like third party models, I'm like, what could I use this for in a game? How could I get this on a table and roll some dice next to it?
Now, if you had a choice of any model that you could have, like made or not made, of all the gaming systems that are out there, is there a particular model that you would like to see made so you could paint it?
Right now, the one that I'm most anxious about there being a new model for is a new Lucius the Eternal for Warhammer 40,000. I'm very much anticipating. I know it's coming. It's got to be coming. Surely it's coming soon. Every year they let me down.
Yeah, I definitely think if that's going to be, it has to be an aesthetically amazing model to have to put out there. But I'm hoping that they do a Grey Knights update first. Because I think the Grey Knights are well overdue, like an update, and only because I've started collecting Grey Knights as well.
Yeah, I do have a. It's actually one of the few armies that I have that's pretty much fully painted is my Grey Knights. But yeah, old Caldor Drago miniatures getting very long in the tooth now. Yeah.
Somebody's put in the chat there they'd like to have a model of the Emperor. Well, I'm sitting right here. You can make a model of that. And Hothmeister Money says Gus lost painting mountain cows. Is there a story behind that?
So it was actually a commission job that I actually did for Pothmeister. Is the Lumineth Realm Lords, and they've got the big like cow statue thing with it's got like a mountain on its back, and it's just affectionately known as the Mountain Cow. And I've literally just been given a brand new commission to do another one, so by somebody else. So so it's literally the next thing that's going to be on my painting table, like in the next week or two.
And how long would it take you to roughly do a model like that then?
To do a model like that to my sort of high level standard, it depends on what people want done. Like certain color schemes and that are like obviously take longer than others. But a model of that size would usually take me between 20 and 30 hours work to do to a decent standard. So.
And are you fully booked up just now for commissions, or can people still request things for you? How far in advance do you book yourself?
So I'm very sporadic with my commissions and that. I mostly do commissions on a request only basis. I don't really so much advertise my services. So I tend to get periods where I'm just like working on my own stuff, and I kind of like that though. So when I'm finished a big commission project and that, 9 times out of 10 when I'm painting something for somebody else, especially when I'm really enjoying painting it, I'm sitting there thinking, oh, I can apply this technique to this model that I have or that model that I have, or I really want to paint that model now. So it's like, it's nice having that kind of little bit of downtime between. So I don't tend to book myself up in advance. If I have something on and somebody else is requested, I kind of try to almost kind of defer them a little bit until after I've finished and then had a little bit of painting time for myself.
I just want to say hello to Syncmaster1386, and the reason I'm singling this person out is because I used to use the word Syncmaster as a password back in the day, and I recognise him from your Twitch streams as well, because I think I said that on your Twitch streams that I used to use. It was either the name of a monitor or it was the name of something, but I think it was monitors. I think there used to be Syncmaster monitors, and I used to use the 3 as an E. I don't use that password anymore. Or do I? No, I don't. But I just, when he jumped in there, I had to say that because, yeah, I used to use that word as a password. So, what was I going to say there? I've totally lost my own train of thought. This is the bad thing about not having
derailed in the ditch.
Yeah.
Sirens blaring.
Yeah, and passengers are drowning in the mud. So yeah, like, do you see yourself going to any conventions this year? Like, I know Casey's going to Salute at the weekend.
Yeah.
Do you see yourself going to take anything this year yourself?
So yeah, I am going to Salute myself as well this coming weekend. Obviously, GriffCon is always a feature thing, which I'm also an invited guest at that. So for obvious reasons, I kind of feel not worthy amongst some of the other names and that do get invited. Other than that, not really. I mean, there was a big kind of like streamer meetup that's happened over the last couple of years, which is like a big kind of streamers get together at Warhammer World. I don't know if that's going ahead this year because I know that the guy that usually organises it has had some sort of issues and that with like issues with his like health and things like that. So I don't know if that's getting organised this year, which would be understandable. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of play it by it. The problem is that with my day job, I work most weekends. So any kind of like big sort of weekend event that happens, and that I do have to really kind of plan it in advance, and it kind of becomes a whole thing. And I only get like X number of like holiday days a year that I can actually dedicate to that kind of thing because most of my holiday days is spent spending time with my family and things like that. So,
and as a content creator, you've got your job and you do your commission work. How do you find that work-life balance? How long does it take you to get a perfect or close to perfect work-life balance for yourself, your missus, and your child?
I'll let you know. I'll let you know when I find it. Yeah, no, it's really not the easiest thing in the world. There have been times when especially in like the early days of my streaming, that I would like, I'd have like the full drive of, yeah, I really want to stream, really want to stream, really want to stream. And it just such the excitement, just riding the sort of hype train of that. Eventually your sort of physical capabilities, there we go, try again. Well, physical capabilities catch up with you. And you kind of have to start sort of stepping back and thinking, okay, I could stream now, but I've worked like a 14-hour day, and it's like I'm really tired. I could stream tomorrow, but it's like I probably need the time to like rest a little bit, and then I've got other things that I have to do, and so just trying to find that kind of work. I mean, trying to find a work-home life balance is hard enough without then adding in a third element, almost like a second job, as it were, almost. So yeah, it's there are times when it's hard, and there are times when I've literally, okay, this is my regular scheduled streaming day, and I'm like, wake up in the morning, and I'm just like, you know what, I just don't have the energy for this today.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like in the Inquisition as well, like I think in February we were having 2 a week at one point. We overbooked ourselves as well. And it is like a full-time, it does feel like a full-time job, like doing this sort of thing as well. And people say, oh, you send out an invite, and then, but you got to make sure that everybody's happy. And like, obviously, I was reaching out to you a couple of days beforehand and asking if there's any questions that we can't chat about, or any subjects and that sort of stuff. And then you've got all the other stuff that comes on top of it. But I don't think people understand. Until you do it, it can be so consuming as well, which is mental to think this wee hobby that is so niche can take up so much of our time as well.
Yeah, but I do it because I love it. At the end of the day, I love the community that has been built up. A community has built up around me, which is like a really weird thing for me to like say, and it's like I feel like I'm the center of this little universe that a lot of people kind of revolve around, and it's just like, I don't feel like I deserve to be at this point. I should be revolving around with you lot. I was like,
it must feel so weird though when people reach out to you and ask you like for any painting advice. Like I've reached out to you before and asked you like, oh, how did you do this, or how did you do that? So that must be weird, because you, as you say, like you feel a wee bit shy when you're a guest to like DriftCon and that, and when you're mixing with like Peachy and the more established names. But you yourself, you're an established name now.
Yeah. Well, but the thing is, like you're saying, I mean, I was on a Q&A panel during the last GriffCon, and on one side of me I had Peachy, and on the other side I had Arbiter Ian, both of whom are way more well known than me, with way more viewing figures. People know them, and then there's just me sitting in the middle going, I don't deserve to be here.
Yeah, I think we all feel that imposter syndrome when we're doing things as well. Like, why are people watching me paint many plastic figures, or why do they feel that follow me? Do you know what I mean? Especially with Twitch as well, it must have been so weird when you slowly see your numbers building up, especially over COVID, that you've got such a good following now, which is brilliant. Like,
yeah, and it's I'm probably one of the worst sufferers of imposter syndrome, but I feel it's validated. Although, and I don't know whether you got this because you had Duncan on previously.
Yeah.
And I've actually interviewed Duncan myself on more than one occasion. I'm actually quite proud of the fact that I actually conducted an interview with Duncan wearing 2 thin coats. I had a hoodie and a rain mac on at the same time. And I've had a few through him being like a guest at GriffCon and actually interacting with him on a sort of personal level a couple of times. He is probably the biggest sufferer of imposter syndrome who I have ever met. He is one of the most humble people. And I don't know whether you got that from your interactions with him, but yeah, he feels like he just wants to be one of the guys, and everyone has put him up on this pedestal, and it's a deserved pedestal for the most part. But yeah, he doesn't feel like he deserves to be there while everyone else does. So, and if he can feel like that, then any of us can.
Yeah, totally. Like we've been doing this podcast now since the end of July, start of August. Maybe it was September. I think we're like 38 episodes in, or whatever. And initially, we were just trying to get people on Instagram that we followed, and the whole premise for us doing it was just to spread a bit of hobby love to everybody. Because there's some really good painters out there that don't have the following that other painters would have. So me, myself, and Simon, who was on with us, we were kind of just like shooting the shit and throwing out ideas. And I was like, I really want to get Graham McNeil on. Like, let's see where we can kind of push this. So like when like Peachy and Duncan Rhodes and Graham McNeil came back and said they would come on, like we were totally shocked that us being unknown people, that these people would happily give up their time to come and speak to us about a stupid hobby, or well, it's not a stupid hobby, it's the hobby. I always say that when I'm trying to pick up the hobby. I always try and then demean it and say it's a stupid hobby. It's not a stupid hobby. It's such a good hobby for like mental health and stuff as well. It's really helped me with my mental health, and that's the other thing about the Inquisition is we always try and pick up the mental health aspect of how good this hobby is as well. Do you 100%. Find this helped you with your mental health at all, if you don't mind me asking?
I would say that I've never been. I was always. I mean, I grew up in a time where if you didn't pay attention and work hard at school and that, you were a lazy little shit that just needed to work harder and that. You weren't somebody that was diagnosed with like ADHD or dyslexia or anything like that, because people just didn't really care to delve into that kind of thing. So I'm very much of the era of kind of passing off sort of mental kind of problems and issues and that of myself as I just need to get on with it and just ignore it because it's just me being silly. And it's very hard for me to get out of that kind of mindset, and I probably have struggled with life a little bit as a result. And it's very much been a case of my daughter, who's now just leaving the room. Now I've just started talking about her. Yeah, I'm talking about you. That she herself has been diagnosed with like mild dyslexia and things like that, and it was brought to my attention because my Mrs. G, she works in childcare and that, and so she's trained to kind of notice these kind of things in kids and that, and like catch them early and that. She's been pointing out, well, we need to get our daughter tested, and I'm just sitting there thinking, well, she's doing like a lot of the stuff that I did as a kid, and it was just like, she'll be fine. And it was just like, and then I take a step back, and when it is found out that she is like dyslexic and things like that, and I'm starting to think maybe I was. I was like, and maybe it was just I was just called lazy, and the lazy kid that didn't pay attention in school and didn't get good grades as a result. I'm
going through something similar myself. Like my son, he's been diagnosed with ADHD and he's on the autism spectrum. I'm actually myself, like after my wife's also on, like my wife works with intellectual disabilities, and me myself, I'm actually going through a journey with my own, seeing if I try to get myself diagnosed, or maybe just see if it's all in my head. But like my wife, who works with people with intellectual disabilities and special needs, she's like, "Are you definitely ADHD?" So I'm waiting to get diagnosed. I'm going through that process myself, but I'm definitely, I'm probably the same age as you, Ian. Like, you're basically just told to man up, or he's just a troublemaker. But really, you were probably needing a wee bit more support in school. So, but going back to the hobby, like that's why the hobby is so good. You can just hyper focus on it and take yourself into a journey and just make up what you want as well, which is what I love about this hobby as well.
Yeah, that's probably why I got into the hobby like so much as I have, because I have found myself over the years, I do get hyper obsessive over things. If there's something that I'm interested in, it's literally my single arrow focus, and it's all I can think about, and it's all I can do. As soon as I've got an interest in something, I literally have to see it through to its conclusion. Otherwise, it's just burning in my brain as just something I want to do, and not to the exclusion of all else.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. So I think we're nearly at time up here, so I just want to throw some quick fire questions out to you now, just going back to the hobby here.
Yeah,
If
no
you had
problem.
one, if you like, we had Mike Moans on before, and one of the hacks that he gave us on the chat was using hand sanitizer to clean your brushes. Do you have any like wee painting hacks or anything like that you'd like to throw out there to the chat?
So I have a hack that has kind of been thrown up as a result of I'm actually partially colorblind. And this is actually something that I do, and I just did it for my own sort of benefit, where what I will do is I will undercoat a model in like a dark color, and then I will always give it a dry brush all over the model. Because I have trouble seeing like differentiation in color, doing like subtle highlights on areas of models, and that I actually find very difficult to do. So what I do is I do this like dry brush over the model, and what that tends to do is it highlights all the areas of the model and sort of gives you like almost a guide as to, oh, so that's where the dry brush is caught, so that's where a highlight needs to go. And a lot of people have told me they've seen me doing this on stream, and they turn around to me and said that I've started doing that as well, because it's a really good technique for people that don't know how to highlight. It either you do this like dry brush, and then you either mentally sort of remember where all those lines are, or you take a photo of it, and then it will give you a guide as to how to how and where to add highlights to models. So yeah, that's probably the best kind of little hack that I've come up with.
And do you have any tips for anybody to improve their painting?
Only try to impress yourself. As long as if you are happy with your paint job, then that's all that matters. If you are not happy with it, if you don't think it's good, then figure out where to improve on it and push yourself. Start looking for tutorials and things like that. But never allow anybody else to tell you that that's bad or that's good. The only person you need to impress is you.
And just finally, what would you use to strip paint off a model and repaint it?
The only thing that I've ever used for that is brown Dettol, and I know it's not the best way of doing things. I know there are better products out there, but it's the only way I know.
I use Dettol as well. My wife used to love the smell of Dettol until I started miniature painting 4 years ago. Now she hates the smell of Dettol because just pots of Dettol everywhere. It's like pots of piss. It's just pots of Dettol everywhere in our house with like miniatures on it.
I've ruined so many toothbrushes because of that.
Oh, I don't even chat to me about my downstairs bathroom. There's just like brush spots everywhere where there's just Dettol being flying over the ceilings and everything.
Yeah, I think there's still purple spots all up my bathroom wall, and that much to Mrs. G's chagrin.
So, Ian, thanks so much for coming on. For people who don't follow you, the foolish people that don't follow you, where can they find you and when do you stream?
So you can find me both on Instagram as Gus the Hut and on Twitch, twitch.tv/Gus the Hut. I stream regularly every Wednesday and Sunday afternoons. I'm more of a daytime streamer. I am planning to add in a Tuesday evening where I will do my own kind of sort of podcast type show where called Gus the Hut's Round Table. It's actually something that I used to do on like a Monday evening, but because of work schedule and that, had to stop doing that. But it is going to be resurrected in the near future. So.
And is it anybody you want to shout out or anything that you want to shout out before we wrap it up for the evening, Gus?
Just all the wonderful people from my community. Notable names: Jotun Art, who has graciously provided all the artwork for my channel and been a massive supporter of the channel. Obviously, Griffin Gaming and that for all the support in getting my streaming career up and running, and just everybody else from the community that's just been there for me. Where it's at times where I started streaming because I was lonely during lockdowns, and just having this community that's built up around me, I feel a great sense of pride about it. And I love all of them.
Oh, mate, it's an absolutely fantastic stream, and it's always so entertaining watching the chat, especially having the sexy hobbyist in the chat as well. It's such a great Twitch channel to watch, and I've also enjoyed it. You've done a few long streams as well, like busty streams and that, which have been absolutely epic to watch. But I'm hoping that we can get you back on it sometime in the future if you're up for coming back on.
Oh,
We
yeah,
can maybe do a
100%.
catch up or something like that as well. I would just like to say thanks to Elements of Power and Boltstorm Wargaming, our sponsors, as well as Infernal Miniatures for all the graphics he does, my son Luke, and also the legend, the myth, the man, Penchammer, aka Casey, also known as Michael. Folks, we are back on Sunday with Vanguard Tactics Chris on Sunday. I just want to say thanks again, Gus, for coming on. Hope you had a great time, and everybody have a lovely rest of your Wednesday.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
Peace.